let's get this one thing straight. Having your boys, like having your bros, your brothers basically around is one of the best feelings that you can get in this episode, in this chapter that I'm going to talk about. Like, just because sometimes you're lonely, sometimes you don't have your boys, sometimes you're just lonely, does not mean that you should feel lonely, if you know what I mean. So just because, I don't know, some days you're doing some stuff alone and you're like, oh fuck, I'm lonely, or like, oh shit, I feel so alone. You shouldn't actually have that feeling. Even sometimes if you don't hang out with people that much, you still shouldn't have that feeling of that loneliness. Of course, like us human beings were built to like be in a tribe, be with people, have people around us, like do things together, work like that. That's how we're built. But these days I think so much stuff is online that people consume content, and it's like that content is making you like not eating that itch that you need. Like, oh, like let's go hang out with the boys. I'm just gonna watch a YouTube video from, I don't know, KSI or some bullshit like that. No offense to him, but like. So, people suffer from always just having someone. When you always just need someone, and it's like, you know, a lot of guys do this. They need people because they seek validation from females, from women. Like, we can be honest, like, guys seek validation a lot from girls. And, of course, girls do the same thing. They dress in a certain way. They do that because they want validation from guys. Because, wake up, the world, we live in a pretty fucked up place. But, when they're horny as well, when us guys are horny, they're gonna indulge in content. They're gonna indulge in like pornography and stuff instead of confronting whatever they have. Like, look, people are always going to try to do things that other people are doing. It's always work like that. People like get FOMO, fear of missing out. It's like it's quite stupid. Like, the reason I'm saying this is, personally, I have achieved an aspect in life where I do stuff that I just do alone. When I do those things, I do not feel lonely. I don't feel lonely in my life. Of course, I have like friends and everything. My social life is great, but sometimes you just like to do things on your own. And when you do those things on your own, a lot of people like feel something's missing. Not for me. Of course, when I'm doing those things alone, it'd be a bonus if like your bros were there, you guys were doing something crazy and fun. Of course. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the aspect where, because a lot of people struggle with this. A lot of people struggle with this where they're alone and they're lonely and they can't. So they just, like I said, they indulge in bad shit, They start doing bad habits. They start, they have FOMO. FOMO, like, fear of missing out is so stupid. Just because you told yourself, look, I'm not going to do this, doesn't mean you should change your opinion or whatever your plans are just because you fear you're going to miss out on something when realistic you probably won't. Look, the entire goal is you don't want to rely on anybody. Your life, look, you can become a millionaire, you can become a billionaire. There are endless possibilities with your life. The only person who can achieve that is you. Now, if you have some stupid limiting beliefs, I can't do this, I can't do that, you probably won't. If you rewire your brain, all right, and tell yourself, you know what, Jan, we're living to the best we can. We're getting up, we're training every single day, we're working hard, we're working our asses off. Yeah, we sometimes have setbacks, who cares? I had a setback. I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, bro, life's so good, life's so fun. I'm scared some bad shit's gonna happen, like I get sick or something. And then I got stung by a bee, fucking massive reaction on my leg, so I can't train. It's difficult to walk. But like, you can look past those things, all right? Because in life, there's going to be aspects of your life that are going to be just filled with loneliness. And I want to get that loneliness to disappear, you know? I don't want to call it loneliness because society has validated and made it sound like, loneliness is bad. It's not. When you're alone, that's actually sometimes the most valuable time you have. That's the time where you actually find yourself. You recognize what you are, who you are, what you're doing, why you're even here, why you're doing what you're doing. Those times of just, maybe working or just sitting and thinking and having deep thoughts. Because honestly speaking, with some friends, you might have that one friend that you guys have deep thoughts and deep conversations with. But the rest, you don't have deep thought like conversations. You don't like ask deep things because we live in a society where people are scared to like open up. And like, yeah, if you don't have the person, maybe it's not the right time to open up to them. But that's what I mean when you're alone, is that you can have these deep thoughts and you can just question yourself and just ask yourself, what is the point of my life? What am I doing here? Like, obviously you want to find what you're capable. You want to uncover what you're capable, and you do this by going through tough situations, because when you go through tough situations, you discover yourself, you discover how you react in these different situations. you know Going to the gym, that's going to build you discipline. It's going to build you discipline, and then every single time you go, and it's like, you kind of find yourself, because like, you look back and you're like, fuck, my younger self would have never done this. I had to do X, X, and X to get to where I am. And of course, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take time. Look, nothing easy, nothing good in life is going to be easy. Any relatively smart human being will tell you that. I remember when I, myself, younger age, I was like, I also have a pool party in 2 weeks. YouTube, how to get a six pack in 14 days. And there were all these videos, and I watched them, and I didn't actually take action on anything. Maybe I did it once or twice, but nothing worked. The only thing that worked was, holding yourself accountable and doing everything every single day for the rest of your life. Look, when you do these things, when you overcome addictions as well, like, I'm gonna go on a side tangent here, but overcoming addictions it tells you a lot about yourself. For me, I realized I have quite an addictive personality, but also when I put my brain to it, I can get out of it. I had a caffeine addiction, I quit that. I had a lot of different addictions. I'm not saying drugs or alcohol. I'm saying more like stupid addictions, like junk food, caffeine, chewing gum, porn addiction, of course. Like, but when you overcome these things, you realize, and you kind of find yourself, and you're like, oh, you discover more of your body. You realize things that maybe, like, for me personally, I'm like, I'm not gonna try drugs ever, because what's the point? I might get addicted, like, and that's pretty fucked. Like, when you get addicted to drugs, so maybe I won't like it, and then I'll regret trying it. So you have to discover your body that way, that, like I did. I discovered what I'm good, what's my strengths, what are my weakness. And you're gonna do these in these little phases where you're alone. Look, I don't want to say alone, but it is true. You're gonna be alone. Not necessarily you have to feel lonely, because when I'm alone, honestly, most of the time I never feel lonely. I go on bike rides alone, and it's just like, you're riding your bike, and you're just like, fuck you. Like, sometimes you just have such a smile on your face. Like, I'm trying to get this thought out to you, because I've heard from a lot of people. They're like, man, I'm struggling. I'm mentally unstable. I'm depressed. I really don't know what to do with my life. I got to talk to a lot of people, otherwise I just feel lonely. I gotta have people around myself. It is good to have that. Of course, we can talk, and like, you have to have good people around yourself, but it's more that when you are around yourself, when you are just you should feel great, all right? You should have this baseline of, fuck, I feel amazing. And then everything else that comes in your life should be a bonus. So when a friend comes into your life and you see, they're actually really like not adding much value to my life, the only thing that, like, look, the value could be you just like hang out with them and they're funny. Look, they don't have to be 6'4", they don't have to be jacked, they don't have to have a business, they don't have to. Look, they can be completely like a degen as long as, okay, maybe not, but as long as they're not inflicting your life in a bad way and they're kind of making your life better, maybe you just hang out with them and you guys are cracking up, having jokes. That's something that adds a positive to your life. Like when guys, when we set a baseline and then women come into our life, it's like they're just there, but they're making it worse. So when a woman comes into your life and it's like, shit, well, my life's already been great before you came in here. I want you to be a positive and additive to this. I don't want you to come in here and just start telling me I'm a bitch or just like bossing me. Sorry, excuse me, or just bossing me around and doing stuff like that. I love my life the way it is. Everything else that I add into it should make it better, should make it more fun, should make it more disciplined. This like era, it shouldn't make it worse. Look, everything that you're gonna do, it's not gonna happen overnight. That's a disclaimer I'm gonna put up here. But I want you to get into a place where you can go do stuff on your own and you're fine. You're maybe gonna go on the bushwalk. Just imagine this. Close your eyes. You're gonna go on a bushwalk by yourself. You're feeling great, right? You come to this, I don't know, opening, you sit down, you look at the sun, and you're just there in your thought. These thoughts come to you, maybe deep thoughts, and you answer them truthfully. You pack up, you go home, and you actually feel like you did something. Look, you can open your eyes. Of course, every single day is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be great. You're going to have days where maybe you fuck up. Maybe you indulge in bad habits. So what? It doesn't matter what you did. It matters how you look at what you did and you keep moving forward. You're going to have those days where you relapse. You're going to have those days where you eat junk food. It doesn't, like, of course, don't look at what you did. It's more important how you keep moving. You go to the gym. You hit PRs. You keep fucking moving. I got a bee sting. My whole leg's fucked. I went to work. I kept moving. Alright? I'm recording this video. I'm keeping going. I'm not going to let this thing just drag me down because what's the point? There's no point. It's literally just going to make you feel like rubbish, like shit. So when you can actually control it, like I said, the only thing that matters is you. When you can control yourself, when you can tell yourself, I'm going to crush life, then you will. You really will. So start by setting this baseline. It's not going to take a day. It's going to take more than a day. And you will find out by, putting yourself in these situations, seeing who you are. You're going to like unlock your character pretty much. See where you're at, see how you react, and it'll get you into that position where you're actually more satisfied with yourself. You're more happy because you've experienced stuff on your own and you're like, I know how I react. And everything else is just a bonus to your life. Really quickly, I have this community. It is the top link in the description. I'll catch you in the next video, brother. Peace out.